Next, we've got our laterals, rotation, and then the side bend. So let's start with the side bend, and let me first clarify there's a difference between a side bend and a side reach. And I'm going to show you both. Both are valid, both are necessary and important depending on who or what you're doing, right? Again, we come up with the arms to load. We covered that in your flat back, right? Now, if I side bend and lead with the weight of the head and shoulders, reaching out, I can go pretty far, but it's very easy to get there by collapsing down into my side. That is still going to be work through my obliques and the lat on the other side to bring me up. It's still going to be work. It's still a thing. It's still a thing. So in this bend, it's also very difficult to keep the actual reference of head to sacrum, right? Because it's very easy to, again, let it fall down instead of reach up, out, sacrum towards the weight of the head, and therefore keep the strength in your center. But side bending is necessary. We need to be able to bend down and get things, right? Real life, okay? But the side reach goes a little bit deeper, right? So the side reach, I want to think of, again, engaging the hips to take me up out of the idea of flexion. I'm not going to lean back unless I'm doing the more advanced twist back around the world, which I'm not going to do right now. That's for a different day, right? But as I go up and I think side reach, sacrum up through to the top of the head to push and reach up out, exhale, come back. That is very different to come from the bottom to reach up and out and into something and then bring it back, right? Now again, showing you the difference between a side bend, right? I can still reach up and go over, and this is still a very nice event in my thoracic spine and in my rib cage. But lift, reach, this is a much different thing for my obliques, and pull back up. This is a much different thing for the quadratus lumborum to really open on one side and bring it back up, right? It's also, if you picture your psoas, right? You have your psoas in here, your psoases, so I like to call them if you pluralize them, right? If you take your side bend, right, you're really going to be compressing more down into one of them, lengthening the other, right? Compressing down into one more, lengthening the other. We're really, with the side reach, we want to really bring the full length of both. So therefore it brings the back, right? And therefore it would also bring your pelvis at some point. Imagine doing a cartwheel, but your butt didn't come with you. That'd be so weird, right? So in a cartwheel, it's like, as much as you embrace that side bend to go over, at some point you'd have to push and get your booty over your head. Real life application. If you haven't tried to do a cartwheel in a while, just give it a whirl, see what happens. It's a good party trick, right? So now we're gonna take that into actual mermaid on the reformer. Mermaid on the reformer. I won't lie, it is not my favorite place to do the mermaid, which I would also like to rename the mer person, okay? The reason why I don't like it here is because I feel like I'm being squished into this shape that my body was never really supposed to make. Yeah, but you know, the reality is that's most of Pilates, so get over it, okay? Now, there are some places that really want your shins and knees stacked on top of each other and against the blocks. This is not accessible for me, as I am missing a good amount of cartilage. This hurts, so I'm not gonna do that, okay? But there does need to be connection of like at least one leg into the blocks, right? Now, if you want to take a variation on the mer person and go to what I have heard many people refer to as Cleopatra, and go into more of a Z-sit with your legs, this can be easier for the knees and the hips and easier to get that lift of the spine, but you are going to have to vary the choreography a little bit. So if I'm in this Z-sit it is much more accessible to go for the side bend and then the push of the legs and hips out. And then pull the reformer back in with the hips coming more into your side bend and come back up. And that's why I took that moment in your short box to really explain the difference between the side bend and the side reach, because I just don't consider them to be exactly the same lateral movement, right? So one more time, I'm gonna go over into it, and then to get more, I've got to actually push the spring out. And then if I try to hold the upper body in space and pull the lower body back in, you're gonna see me come into that work of my obliques. Now, if I tried to reach this, I'm not gonna make it as far, because it's very hard for me to find this hip back here in this angle that's coming out of here. And I thought of flipping it, it's not so pleasant in my knee here. So as I think push out from my hips and reach out, I'm also going to get stuck by this hip and how much can I come across this groin and inner thigh. It's much harder to feel where you want to reach from your bottom side because it's so easy to just collapse down into that bottom hip, right? Coming up, won't lie, it's pretty easy to come up because the reformer's doing its job. The spring's retracting, it's bringing you in, right? But we need this movement and action in this hip. But you saw how very hard it was for me to control not just collapsing down in here, right? Now, the more you tuck this leg under and come out of that Z-sit, the more you have to come up into center and hold yourself up. You've got less surface area. You've got less of a base underneath of you versus when you're all spread out here, right? So now all of a sudden, any tightness in your obliques and in your QL is going to show up, right? And someone's pulling, pulling, pulling. That's why these are here. Grab what you can and pull, right? Arm lifts up. If you've been working your side reach, your sides will be so strong over time that holding both up, albeit they are unevenly weighted, is not too terribly hard, but it takes a lot of practice. One hand reaches to the bar. And yes, I have to reach out. Now, the real difference between the bend and the reach. The bend led with the head and shoulders. The reach led with the hips. So I'm going to start moving this reformer from the hips, reaching out. And yes, you see me flip. And yes, you see me start to push out. And now notice how much longer I am as I did come across this bottom hip, but I'm not sunken into it, okay? Now, to come up, I'm gonna try and lift my head up to the ceiling, and I'm gonna try and use my underside to pull the pelvis back up underneath of it, and then I'm going to use the side far away from the bar to pull myself up over, reach, and go. Whew. Now, side towards the foot bar needs to lift, stretch, control it over, and I don't push with my arm, I don't drop my head, I push the hips out away, and I let them roll and stack and flip on top of each other. And then as I'm reaching the hips out and pushing, like I taught myself to do in the short box series, I've got the length and I'm reaching through the side. Now, I can pull my head up and find the side bend, and I can pull my waist back up and in. And then I've got to feel how the side away from the bar brings the bar and over. Now there's just one more little variation I could do, and it's a very subtle difference, but I'm gonna show you, because why not? I push out and I reach over. What if I didn't find that side bend on the way up? What if I just went for the lateral pull and reach and pull and push and reach over? That's really what your side reach is about on the short box. Try all of those versions. Feel how they all feel different. Feel what feels good for you, what doesn't. But if you don't try it on yourself, you won't really know what to give your clients as they come in.